Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today I have Michal back. She was on the show already before, but today she joins us with a super exciting topic. We are going to talk about UEBA in Microsoft Sentinel. But before, Michal, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Heike. So I'm so glad to be here on the Ninja Show again. I am Michal Shechter. I'm leading the UEBA area in Sentinel. Very excited to be here and talk about this exciting topic.
Yes. Before we dive deep, can you explain a little bit in a nutshell, like what is Microsoft Sentinel, these UEBA capabilities?
Of course, my favorite topic. So UEBA actually stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics, which is exactly what we are doing. UEBA capabilities in a nutshell allow us to bring our customers and our user the behavioral lens of what is happening in their organization. Not only that, we also know how to give context to those behaviors of what it is that is happening in their organization. And we can also say, and we will dive deeper into this probably in this show, when something that is happening is out of the ordinary and should be noticed and should be investigated further. So we bring this analysis, we give context, and then we also say whether something is anomalous and a behavior should be investigated further. This is really, in a nutshell, we do this with AI-powered capabilities, which are very advanced and also very well-founded in the product for years now.
So, but Michal, UEBA itself is nothing new to Sentinel, right? So what is the news today?
So exactly, UEBA has been around for Sentinel for a few years now, being very innovative and very stable capability. So of course, we also love to talk about that, about how it's been serving our customers for years. The new announcement that came out last week was our support of new data sources. So it's authentication sources from first party, and then AWS Cloudera support, GCP audit log support, and Okta CL support for specific types of logs. So we thought this was a great opportunity to remind our customers to go and check it out. If you couldn't check out UEBA until today because we did not support the logs you're ingesting, here's your chance.
So when I think about the usual rule-based alerts that we are used to, so how is this different?
So this is a great question that comes up a lot. So thank you for allowing us to kick off with that. So alerts are rules. They're rules that say what should be noticed by the SOC and is probably also suspicious or malicious and should be investigated. Behavioral analysis and anomalies are somewhat of another signal. So they are based on baselines that we calculate dynamically on the environment. So let's take an example. So we have a user, and this user for the last 6 months has been logging in from the same device every time. This is a baseline we build for 6 months. We look at this baseline and we identify all sorts of insights. And we say, hey, this is the first time this user has logged on from a new device. We don't recognize this device at all. With your regular, or I would say, detection rules, which are very important, you have to know what you're looking for in order to be alerted on this. Here we say when there is a deviation or an anomaly from a certain baseline, it can be 6 months for some anomalies, it can be 10 days, it can be 3 months, we have an output, an anomaly generated. We also say, for many of our logs, this is the first time this has happened also among peers. So we calculate this based on AD and AAD. So we say, hey, this is the first time the user has logged on from the device, but this is actually something that we see peers doing as well. Maybe new devices were distributed in the organization, just as an example. So once we have those insights and we say, okay, this is the first time this has happened, and this is also the first time it has happened among the peers or in the tenant. And also, this is an uncommon activity. This is where our AI-powered engine comes into play, and we turn the insights into an anomaly. So we say this is actually anomalous. It's not just something that happened for the first time. It is anomalous that it is happening at the first time. And there is a score for how anomalous is it. This way, unlike the detection rules that create alerts, we don't have to know exactly what happened in order to raise the alert. We need to know that something happened and it is out of the ordinary enough. So we provide this high quality signal to the SOC. The SOC can then use this signal, whether as a context to investigation. So they have an alert, they have an incident. There is a user in that incident that also has high confidence anomalies. So this is giving great context to understand, hey, this is something we do need to investigate further, maybe start even with this user. But it also can affect, for example, the severity of the alert.
I was just wondering, Michal, how does it look like? Like, how does it surface now within Sentinel or in Microsoft Defender? Like, is there now a flag that says hi? Like, how is it look? How does it look like?
What we have are tables that can serve for all kinds of logics that our users can use. So we have the identity info table that provide profiles of the entities. It's just profiles. And then we have the behavior analytics table. This is where we provide both enrichments. So we have geolocation and ISP and threat intelligence feeds coming in, enriching this behavior. And also looking at those insights. This is the first time. This is uncommon. This is an activity we haven't seen before. This is behavior analytics. When we compare to peers, as I mentioned before, we also have this table of peers. They're also dynamically calculated for users that are in Microsoft Entra. And then we have the anomalies table. So we have this flow, right? I have a user and their profile in identity info table. I am calculating their peers dynamically in the peers table. Then I have behavior analytics with the enrichments and the insights. So this is the user, this is their geolocation, this is the threat intelligence we have on other evidence on this log. This is the first time, as I said, all sorts of insights. And when those events are actually anomalous, we have them in the anomaly table. So all those signals are available for customers for automation, for hunting, for bringing context into their alerts, and for being part of custom detections. Also, in the user page, in the portal, the customers can see the anomalies on a timeline. So in the Sentinel Events tab, they can see those anomalies in the UI.
But if there's something suspicious, there will be an alert.
So the anomalies are not automatically turned into alerts. This is for the customer to decide. Each organization have their own, I would say, risk appetite and their own users that they would like to keep a closer eye on. We also have watch lists where the customers and our users can have, for example, a watch list of their VIP users. And when those VIP users have anomalies, the customer can say, here, I would like to actually raise an alert. It's important enough. But this is a high quality, low confidence in terms of suspiciousness and maliciousness signal that can be used to in all the experiences and all the processes that customers are doing. And the very, very intelligent AI models we use can assure our users that when an anomaly is raised, it is actually an anomaly. It is something that is out of the ordinary.
But help me again. So, do you raise anomalies before a customer figures something and say, okay, those are my VIP users, or the anomalies will be surfaced, but not an alert until the customer wants alerts. Like, help me.
So when a customer onboards UEBA or enables UEBA, first of all, they sync their inventory, like their AD and AAD. Then they can choose which logs they would like to ingest into the Sentinel UEBA engine. It's a couple of clicks. So I would like to have those logs, and they are ingested or sent into the UEBA engine. From that moment, we start building the baseline, enriching the data, and about a week later, we also have the high confidence anomalies because our AI is learning how the environment is behaving, so not to raise like false anomalies. But this is there from the moment the customer enables UEBA in the UEBA settings. Again, couple of clicks, that's it. And then they are available for the customer to use in whatever process they need. So whether it is to enrich an alert or a detection, whether it is for hunting, let's look at all the anomalies. Let's look at the anomalies of specific users. Let's look at anomalies from specific MITRE techniques. So we have all sorts of views on what is happening in the organization. And of course, can be used, as I mentioned, to have more context in the investigation. So I have an incident, I'm looking at the users. I have a user with anomalies, high confidence anomalies for the last couple of days. This is enriching my experience.
So you mentioned you enable it. It's just one click. You go to the settings, toggle something on, but then you have to specify what kind of logs you would like to import. Is this a one-time thingy? Is this doing this every hour? Is this now constantly sending the logs to then feed the AI with the information, or how is that built?
So once you would like to enable a certain connector, let's say, for example, our new data source that we're not supporting, very exciting, is AWS CloudTrail. So once a customer goes into the UEBA settings and enables, they can see all the connectors we support and which ones they actually have connected and ingesting data to Sentinel. By the way, if they're not, then they have a direct link to the connectors page where they can start sending information. Once they enable, let's say, the AWS CloudTrail connector, it is starting to send all the logs that are being ingested into Sentinel to UEBA engine as well from the moment it's enabled. And then this is an ongoing process. So the timeline, the baseline is always being built. The enrichments are always happening. Anomalies, another toggle, and then anomalies start being created as well. So and this is a one-time thing.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned something important. It is not just a first-party scenario, right? So we have support for third-party connectors as well. What are the typical connectors that our customers are using and that we actually built for that?
So we have announced last week the very exciting public preview of new data sources from UEBA. So first, I should give the respect for the first party. We already have first party logs from Azure Activity and Security Event and signing logs. And we also added support for authentication logs from first party. We also added support for 3 new third party data sources. So AWS CloudTrail logon events, GCP, and Okta, also MFA and activity. So we are very excited for our customers to onboard those as well and start testing them and using them. And of course, giving us feedback and understanding what else they would like to do. These are requests that were on our table, and we're so excited to have anomalies and insights generated for them as well, and really give this like cross cloud experience. So not only Microsoft and Azure, but also AWS and GCP and identity management from Okta. And we are, of course, going to continue to expand those sources. So stay tuned.
Yes, yes. And does this cost anything? I mean, we talked about a toggle, but toggle could also mean you pay something for the feature. Or on the other side at AWS, they're like, no, it's my log. You don't get the log. Like, how does this work?
We're continuing the simplicity. So there is no other SKU or other pricing tier that customers should consider. The pricing of UEBA is the same ingestion pricing for load analytics that the customer is already familiar with. So we are creating new logs in those tables I described, and the pricing is we're charging for those logs. So no other payment other than the usual log analytics pricing.
Mhm. And setting up the connector, like if you have it already set up, it's easy, right? You just enable additional logs that you would like to receive. Setting up the connector is also straightforward for people that start with this and say, hey, this is
Yes.
cool. Okay.
Yes. So if the connector is already connected to your environment, it's just a checkbox. Very simple. If it's not, then we tell you very explicitly that it's not. And we have a direct link to configuring this connector so you can benefit from all the advantages of sending those logs to Sentinel and all our amazing experiences in the Defender portal and also UEBA.
So, Michal, I know that you probably brought us some real world scenarios where we really hear the power of UABA.
Of course, obviously. So we have a couple of scenarios. We will walk them through like in a more higher level just to understand in an easy way what this can do. And I really invite our audience to first read the blog post from the announcement of the new data sources where we have elaborated on some more scenarios. And also we have our great documentation, which we linked in the description, where we have more ideas on how you can leverage these very, 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 I think, differentiating and great innovative capabilities in your environment. So first scenario is we had a customer with a very, very high volume of logs. They wanted to investigate things around a specific entity uh, within a week. Now, the volume of the logs was very large. And looking at those logs, and these were very experienced analysts, it seems that nothing was out of the ordinary. Everything looked normal. Again, as I said, a very high volume of logs. When they looked for this entity in the anomalies table, which I said is much more smaller and more narrow than the behavior analytics, because these are actual anomalies that we trust are real deviations that shouldn't happen for that specific user, they could see very quickly that this entity actually had an anomalous high volume of actions that is uncommon among their peers. This was a first party, so this is something we could very easily calculate those peers, or not easily, but we do it very well, not easy at all. And then they could really focus on the specific times or specific time frames where those anomalies were raised. And then they could go back to the raw logs and look specifically on those times where they actually saw that deviations and things that were not normal for this environment has happened. So this is one example. Another example can be, let's say we have AWS CloudTrail logs from the console login of AWS. And then we can look at and those logs are coming in and ingested into Sentinel. And as I said, with the rules, you have to know what it is you're looking for, what kind of suspicious activity you can expect, and then, of course, raise an alert. What happens here is that using UEBA, we can now see an impossible time travel, meaning using the geolocation, we can see that something anomalous has happened. And we can also see that this is the first time that this has happened for the user. So it's not a user that is traveling a lot, or it's not a user that is connecting from a VPN, but it's a user that this is the first time that this has happened. And this was actually something that was worth alerting on when cross-referenced with a specific list of users, the VIP users. This was worth being an alert for the SOC. So the anomaly alone probably would be just another signal. Yet, with those kind of users, they really did want to be. Now, it doesn't have to be actually an alert for the SOC. It was in this case, but it could be an email. So an automation that is being done on this table. Last example, but not least, is let's say we have an organization that has a lot of vendors. So we have a lot of users logging in from the first time from different places. This is normal for this organization. So we would not raise anomalies in this case because this is normal behavior in the tenant, which is very, very, very important because if we were to raise the same anomalies for this kind of organization in a very tight and controlled environment where when this happens of a user logging in for the first time from somewhere is a real anomaly, then we would either give noise to one or wouldn't surface something to investigate further to the other. This way, because we're building the baselines, because we understand the behavior of the peers of the tenant, then we can raise this anomaly and be very confident about it, or actually say, no, this is normal behavior. You shouldn't do anything about it. And this is for the user to decide.
Yeah, and I think so. First, thank you for sharing these examples. But I think it's also important, right? It needs to be high confidence. It needs to be not overwhelmed with new alerts or any other things that the SOC needs to look at, right? Because then, yeah, people might not like it.
So this is the best thing, right? It's not a queue that you have to look at. You have this really powerful engine, both for enrichments and insight, and a very powerful AI models and neural networks, et cetera, that we put to use in order to say this is a high confidence anomaly that happened. It still might not be suspicious, which is why it's not a queue. It's not something that you have to go through and gives you noise. These are logs that you can leverage to your scenarios. There are also, by the way, anomalies that you can tune their thresholds. Some of them you can, some of them you can't. The UEBA ones are like the newer ones have the dynamic baseline, so no need. Some of them don't have the dynamic baseline and then they can be tuned. So you can use this not as a queue, but as high quality signals. And as I mentioned before, it can be leveraged for detections and for affecting detection, but it can also and should be leveraged both for hunting for threats in the environment and also for having more context on entities, because we can do the full circle here and say the way that an entity behaves is unexpected. And we build the baseline to tell you when this unexpected is also something you should notice.
Plus the context and all the details why it is
We
unexpected.
have great explainability, by the way, important to mention. So when an anomaly is raised or an insight, as we said, it is explained in plain English, very easy to understand what happened, and why we raised the anomaly we raised. And we provide a score, both for the insights in behavior analytics. There is a score saying those insights, a combination of those insights has a higher score than just one insight. So it's first time and uncommon and so on. And the anomalies also have a confidence score. So it is anomalous, but how anomalous is it and how much it deviates also gets a score. And as I said, this is all very, very well documented in our very elaborative descriptions of documents. And you're welcome to visit it. And also let us know, what are you trying to do and you're either not succeeding or succeeding. And we will be happy to continue to expand those capabilities and also explain better what it is that you can do. And this is a good place to mention that a month from now, we will have a public webinar for UEBA where we will dive deeper. We will show demos and we will show walkthroughs, and you will see everything I spoke about here, you can register
at aka.ms/security webinars. I was just about to say, Michal, this is such a rich topic. And yes, some people really enjoy reading the documentation. Other people enjoy, of course, watching the show. And then they want to learn more and they can go to a webinar, which comes up in a month. Um, so, last words from you, Michal, for the audience. Last call to action.
if you have the global administrator or security admin role permissions, go into the UEBA settings, enable UEBA. You know what the pricing is. We talked about this here. Sync your inventories into identity info table. Enable the connectors you have. It is very straightforward. A few clicks. You start getting value right away and high confidence anomalies in just a week, and start leveraging this capability and really harness the power of our algorithms and our AI for your scenarios and for your use cases. And we're very excited to hear your feedback. We're very excited on the new data sources that were announced.
I think, Michal, we all saw the excitement in you and your presentation. Thank you again for joining us here on the Ninja Show. And thanks everyone out there for watching. Bye.